8:34 on the Saturday edition of Weekend Breakfast. This part of the show sees us focusing on various happenings in the arts. And our first conversation is with contemporary artist Frans Toka as he takes part in the African Alchemy exhibition that's taking place, that will be held rather, at the Artley Gallery on the Nelson Mandela Square. This exhibition will showcase the work of 4 young men who've all seen the potential in everyday objects and transform them into something that communicates on a deeper level. That's what the publicity or the press release reads. But France uses oil, I read, on Basotho blankets in his work, in his contribution to the exhibition called African Alchemy. And of course, the name of the exhibition tells you so much about what this project is all about and attempts to do. Frans, welcome to Weekend Breakfast. Thank you so much for coming into studio. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So all of this kicks off on Saturday, next Saturday, the 4th of March. It runs for about a month. Talk to me about your own contribution to the exhibition, the body of work that people can experience that you put up.
Okay, for this exhibition, I decided to focus on trees. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the body of work, you realize that in the compositions, there's like a repetition of trees and stuff. So the reason I tapped into that is because growing up in the villages in Limpopo, Polokwane, mm-hmm. With my maternal grandmother. Yeah. We used to do field work, we'll go out there and do plowing, like using our hands. Yeah. And afterwards, we sit under these trees and have conversations. And some of the conversations, obviously, they tap into land issues, They'll tell us about how they were forcefully removed from one place to the next place. Yeah. And how they ended up where they are at the moment. Yeah. So to me, this body of work is sort of like, revisiting childhood memories, but also looking at the current issues in terms of what's happening here in South Africa. Yeah. There's land issues and also like there's that sense of not belonging somewhere. Like you're there in space, but you don't really know where you really belong, because of so many socio-political issues, So if you look at my work, for instance, I speak about the idea of a burning landscape, and I'm Sotho. So as a Sotho-speaking person, there's a word for it, and we call it Klara. Yeah. And Klara, again, it means emergence. It's like, where do you come from?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, like, if you look at my work, you realize that there's that sense of burning landscape, and that's where we are right now as South Africans, And because, again, with this body of work, like it's not just about like actual land. The landscape in my work is sort of like portraits, I would say. Instead of having faces, I decided to have like trees, the landscapes, and this is specifically commenting on black communities. Because we come from apartheid. Obviously, we can't deny the fact that's where we come from. And to some of us, like we sort of like have that bale of trauma because you keep rolling and not wanting to revisit the past and rework and see what else, and see what could be, useful to us in the future, from those tragic past. Yeah. So in most cases with this body of work and also the word alchemy, like the use of material as well. Like I use a prison blanket and Basotho blanket. Obviously, I'm Sotho. To me, the prison blanket is not just like these are the blankets that were given to our kings when they were put on Robben Island back then during, the Natives Land Act, all those, conflicts. And also, like, if you look at the current issues, you realize that we in trauma and we need a healing. We're sort of like refugees in our own country. And there's that sense of, like, where do I belong? Where do I go? Like similar applies to what's happening right now between Ukraine and Russia. Somewhere else there's a refugee out there. So to me, the blanket is not just comfort. It's also like a reminder that you are in crisis. You need help.
Sure.
So whatever. Yeah.
What do you imagine, Frans, that healing might even begin to look like? I imagine that with yourself, that healing for you starts with talking about it, creating art out of that trauma to help interrogate it. But as a nation, we've got a huge project at hand, right? A big job at hand. How do we even begin that?
I think from my view, like as I mentioned, we sort of like, because in some of my work, like I make images of like bales, hay bale, but in this case, like I use a blanket. So it's not just a hay bale. And also, like if you look at the nature of it, if you expose it like in an open land and absorb some water, it starts to rot from inside. So that's where we are at the moment. So for us to find that healing, we need to sort of like roll backwards. And also there's this thing of, especially if you look at where we come from, there's this thing of, we normalize trauma. We normalize, a black person must struggle, a black person must go through this and that and that. So how about we look at it like, we are just bales of trauma. How about we start peeling this? Because right now they feel like as if it's like a carapace, like an exoskeleton, protecting you. But they are not, That's what's happening at the moment. So we need to work on these layers and remove them and nurture the ones that will be beneficial to the next generation. Yeah.
Yeah, you're taking us to church on a Saturday morning, Frans, and speaking some big, some really, really important truths. This exhibition is going to run for a month. So it launches on the 4th of March up until the 5th of April. What do you want people to, first of all, you as an artist, you can't tell people what to take away, right, from the experience. But how would you like them, as they enter that space at Atelier, how would you like them to look at each piece, experience each piece, and perhaps even your own sort of thoughts around that time spent at the exhibition?
In terms of my work, I wouldn't say I want people to look at it from this angle or that angle, because we come from different backgrounds, Some of us, we inherited trauma. Some of us went through it, and today we are going through it, So I think also like some people enjoy the imagery, whereas other people enjoy the use of material, whereas others enjoy, it's a Frans Talker exhibition. Frans Talker is involved with other artists as well, like your Pro Tusi, your Walter Maluleke, and others as well. And, it depends on where you come from, and I can't force you to look at things from my angle. But all I'm trying to say through this body of work is that just pay attention to this and that and that. And I'll be there at the gallery, Atelier Gallery. And if anyone is interested in having a conversation, like deeper conversations about these pieces, I'll be there, and you are welcome to tap me on the shoulder.
That's really, really lovely. Frans, obviously, all at Atelier Gallery, the 4th of March is when it all kicks off. Social media, how can people follow you and find you? I think it would really be worth our while as well, just to track your journey and what it is that you're doing beyond this exhibition.
You can Google me, Frans Talker. On Instagram, I'm there. And I think those are the only platforms that I am at the moment.
That you're present on, yeah. You've mentioned some of the artists that you will be showing with at the exhibition. There's Fumani Maluleke, Morgan Mahabe, Pro Tusi as well. Any sort of conversations? Have you all been in conversation around your own contributions towards this exhibition? And is there a kind of theme that runs either through your work or through your work, but through your arts, your practices as artists as well? Sort of common points.
Yeah. If you look at the body of work, for instance, Fumani Maluleke uses like traditional sleeping mats, and he paints on them and he works into them, he destroys them. So that sort of like speaks, to my work and other artists' work who use beads. Like the guy from KZN, he uses beads in his work to make portraits of people around him, and those beads to him is like people coming together. So if you look at our work, they sort of like, they speak to each other, the conversations, they bounce off each other, and also like the use of material. I think the use of material, that's what like brings us together. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, Frans. I appreciate, first of all, your passionate words and just the sort of insight and introspection that has brought you to creating these wonderful works of art. Thanks for sharing it with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's Frans Toka, and he's part of an exhibition called African Alchemy that will be on at the Artley Gallery on Nelson Mandela Square. That is launching on the 4th of March, that's next week Saturday, and concludes on the 5th of April. Do yourself a favor and, of course, go and check it out.